Let's take a look at DeepDOM heat map. So this is very hyped, maybe overhyped DeepDOM. There is a few beautiful things about that. It looks gorgeous. Now, although I constantly need to update and move the charts because it's gonna go or high or low depending on where the current price is, and I constantly need to adjust to search for the middle position of the chart. It's inconvenience basically. So when the chart is going or high or low, you need to search where is the position of the price, current price. Sorry, it doesn't move really quickly now, but it looks really gorgeous. Look at this. By default, this is what it is. It looks really pretty. You see the price levels, liquidity levels right there in a green, or you can see them in this fancy schmancy neon color, kind of the instead of the red, they're using this specific to their rebranded software because number one, it is rebranded. What does it mean? That means that the people who selling you that DeepDOM and Deepcharts, they are not fully in charge of the process of the development. It's actually takes some, activities out of their shoulders, I understand, and they need to do marketing, which they do really fabulous marketing, which I love. But the software that they're selling is not in full hands of the promoters, and you need to know that. Now, they maybe have some disagreement between the programmers and the people who promote it, or a delay in time. Sorry, now the chart has actually gone a little bit lower. I need to adjust that, and this is manually. You always need to adjust and search for the current price position because it may go too much up or down. Now, there may be some disagreement in terms of the way that they building, like programmers, and the way that the marketers or the people who actually using the heat map need some functionalities. Now, let me give you one not very obvious functionality that if you don't know what to compare with, you have no clue that is the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that this DeepDOM heat map is misleading liquidity levels. It produces misleading liquidity levels. The fact is, if you trying to use that software, it is a dynamic heat map. What is the dynamic heat map? It depends what catch up in the screen, what on your screen, depending on the screen size you have and the resolution you have and what is fits in your screen on the heat map. They decide, okay, on that screen, the maximum volume is, for example, 100 or 200. And according to the maximum, they adjust all the other levels. That means if there is other liquidity that's sitting above, let's say instead of 200, maybe a 500 on ES, liquidity passive orders sitting there and waiting for a long time, but they not yet in your screen, that means that the highest will be 200 that is on your screen and adjust the whole other volumes according to that brightness settings and the contrast settings. So because it's dynamic, but at least when the 500 will catch up and in your screen, because maybe price is moving, to show you other liquidity, passive liquidity sitting and waiting there, and now it's a 500, then 200 will change its brightness. Here is an example of misleading liquidity. Notice that there is only one bright green line for the particular order in volume sitting there, and it tells me that it is important to notice for me as a trader when I do analysis. Now, when I'm gonna expand this chart, you will see that there's other liquidity starting to show up because I expanded horizontally this chart. And now I need to take in consideration the second above this line. I need to take in consideration the second volume that is also important. Now, if I expand it even more, you can see it becomes the same importance by the colors or the mapping by colors, like this line over here below and this line above. If I shrink the chart, you will see that this order become less and less important. It's completely faded away. The point is that DeepDOM heat map, it is the heat map that impose on you and don't let you control the volume. If you want to see the true liquidity, it only give you dynamically adjusted liquidity, meaning that if you decide that, let's say, 200 volume is important passive order sitting on the heat map, you will see that in some situation. Depending on the way that you scale this chart, you will may not even see that at all. And this heat map on a DeepDOM doesn't let you as a trader to fully in charge what you want to see, what is important for you as volume in liquidity. They filtering for you based on the visual appearance, not based on the facts and what level of the volume is important for you, what you want to filter in, what you want to filter out. They filter in and out instead of you and for you. So you can trade incorrectly by using DeepDOM heat map. With any heat map out there that is adjusted dynamically, this is the problem. It's a really serious problem because it doesn't show you the true volume unless you ever use the best order flow heat map and configure to the true liquidity. You probably will never experience that this is really important feature to show the true liquidity or dynamically adjusted. So the DeepDOM number one issue, it is dynamically adjusted liquidity. Now, with that, there is some functions out there. What is the really good functions on the DeepDOM? You can have a really cool sliders. When you click out there, you see liquidity contrast and the top contrast. With these two settings, only two, any blondie, no-brainer, idiot, stupid, proof trader can manage that software. But it is simplified for the process of tuning, and simplification actually out of the price for functionalities. Now, let's see, I really enjoy this. You see the liquidity contrast, I can play with that. You see this? You can adjust it to your likeness and make it like looks really like comfortable for your eye instead of being like this, like crazy like that, when only the contrast is jumping on you. You can manage with the top contrast and fade away and make it like beautiful like this. So isn't that? So let me adjust it again. I need to manually constantly every like 5 minutes to adjust the charts. And this is very uncomfortable feature for me. I need to constantly keep attention and adjust the DeepDOM heat map. There's other functionalities over there that is leads to misguiding, misleading, misrepresenting the true or actual liquidity volume, passive volume sitting on the heat map. If you try to squeeze the charts, this is the only way to notice the other misleading parameters. So what it leads to? It leads to something that is otherwise was not really significant, some levels. They become significant because proximity to the other levels. Let's say there's like a 50 sitting here and 70 sitting here and maybe 100, so 1500. When you squeeze it, the formula is, calculation is, it's gonna fade away both of them and give you in the middle more brighter color. With that, some of the less important volumes, like this one, becoming important. So, and like, dude, this is like, you never thought, but now they suddenly out of nowhere, out of blue, some liquidity levels will become brighter because they have that formula. Every heat map out there, Bookmap, best order flow heat map, ATAS heat map, or a DeepDOM heat map, or any other, have that functionality. When you squeeze the chart from top to the bottom, then there's a formula behind that, how they will highlight or hide the levels that being compressed or grouped. Now, the formula, obviously, for me, if you're a programmer, you will understand what I'm doing and what I'm showing it to it, demonstrating. When you take all of these 3 or 4 software, heatmap software, you will see that each formula are different. And because that formula by programmers on the DeepDOM, this formula, what they choose to, is not really that leads for this heat map to misrepresent levels that are not significant. I try to move it. Not significant to become significant. The point is there's at least 2 positions or 2 reasons for the DeepDOM mislead liquidity, showing you something that is less important as important, or not able to show you actually true what it is there, not visually appealing, but the true by the definition. Let's say if you set the highest for a 500, it will show you 500 with that color, no matter how you squeeze the page, how you manipulate with the page, DeepDOM page. No, it's not possible on the DeepDOM. This is the major flaw. If you never experience the other heat maps, you may accept the DeepDOM as the best standard you ever have. It is because you first love. If you never compare the functionality with the other heat maps, what is dynamic, like on the DeepDOM, to compare with the true liquidity, like on the best order flow heat map, you may never even think that it is the problem with the DeepDOM heat map. You never guess it because it is. You first love. There's many people out there now coming from the DeepDOM experience and coming to the best order flow heat map, seeing my live streams and saying, yes, now we understand the difference between the dynamically generated heat map and the true volume heat map. Now, let's go to the other options that I consider what is giving me a hard time with the DeepDOM. It's not very intuitive. It's not intuitive. Unfortunately, DeepDOM is not that intuitive. Let's go to the settings. So I'm going to the settings of the heat map, click over here. And by the way, this is the latest version, latest update, the fresh update that they have for the DeepDOM. So they developing it over 2 years. Guys, first time when Andrea announced it, it was 2 years ago. So it took them many years to develop the heat map. Okay, many years. That is simply a point that heat map is the most sophisticated piece of the indicators for any platform. Absolutely. But because they have only 2 programmers working on that, that really delays significantly for over the years developing the simple heat map. Point is, they depend on 2 programmers only. Let's take a look. Let's see this screen. I'm going to make it larger and let's see how some functionalities actually works out here. Appearance is not really important here. You can change the appearance heat map. Now this is the heat map, and we can group mode is automatic. We can do none. Okay, and I can apply. Boom. Now deep vision. This is like a pre-designed templates. Okay, deep night. Okay, let me see how does that look like. So this is a deep night, deep violet. Let me click on that. And this is violet on both sides. Nonsense, because it's not really, but you can adjust the colors. That's the beauty of that. Now, infrared, if you click on that. This type is also for a new person is like hard to figure out if that heat map liquidity is sitting left of the price or right of the price. It sits on a bid sides or ask side of the orders, sellers or buyers, basically. The set of the templates, it's easy to change. I'm not going to complain about that. But what about the other options right over here? When I take a look, okay, book level always visible. The key is when DeepDOM is following the example of the Bookmap, and that's what they're trying to. ATAS and DeepDOM, they try to follow they try to outdo the Bookmap. And the bookmap mentality of their software is clunky, outdated in terminology and technology as well. And somebody who is always trying to follow, like Atas trying to do follow the bookmap, and the DeepDOM is trying to follow bookmap. The software like a DeepDOM is a standalone application, which bookmap is the standalone application that gives every trader a headache upon headache. Why is that? I'm going to explain it to you in a minute. But this is the clear sign that the DeepDOM is following the bookmap as the first ones. They're repeating the mistakes of the bookmap again, and again. Okay, highlight mode. I click on the highlight mode, okay, and click apply. Nothing changed. Dude, what do I do? Bookmap levels always visible, only 20. How is that? I'm not really understand why the bookmap levels under settings is visible only 20. Is the maximum bookmap levels can be is only 100. 100 is the very small amount of the levels. If you reflect only 100, it's a very narrow. Filter unit type, it is the perceptual. Okay, let's go to the absolute. Okay, I'm gonna go to the absolute and click apply. Nothing changed. But the point is, it's not intuitive. Now, highlight cutoff. They set at 50. Okay, I'm gonna go in and highlight cutoff, put on, let's say 12. I click apply, nothing changed. I mean, practically, I don't know why is that so, but it's not intuitive. Let's make change from 50 to 100 or over 130. Okay, click apply, nothing changed. It's not responsive. So the beta version that I'm using now, it is still after 2 years they developed the into the new beta, another beta, another beta, another beta, another beta. They maybe will be able to final release in 10 years with a speed like that. I don't know, but it's never ending versions that never end up as the final product, as a final release. So all they're selling is beta, and it's never end up as the something that functional. Filter 1 enabled. Okay, I click on the filters, so that's supposed to be filters by the volume. Okay, I can do filter 1, I can do filter 2. Okay, the filter color 1 and 2 is white. Okay, filter 2 is white. So I'm gonna set my filter, let's say 1 is 50, and another is I'm gonna set to I don't know, maybe 100 or 200. Okay, let me do about the 100, and let me apply it and see if something changed. Nothing changed. And that makes me really upset. I'm trying to change, I'm trying to adjust, but the bottom line is the DeepDOM have a limited functionalities in terms of what you in charge to filter in or to filter out. Point is that DeepDOM is depriving me the way to filter. And why they don't have a heat map for the gold or a micro gold, I have no idea. But the micro gold is really, really tricky. Why? Because if you look at the heat map on the micro gold, you will see that there is a market maker sitting there with a certain volume constantly present, like 100 above the price line and below the price line, like 240 above and below the price line, and a 300 in volume above and below. And when you see that liquidity reflected on the heat map, you're seeing those as the false positive, because it's not true liquidity. The market maker liquidity, particular instrument market makers, that's what's going on the micro gold. And with the charts, with the heat map on the micro gold, you always get reflection of their positions 100, 240, 300 on the heat map. And that gives the false positive. So on the best order flow heat map, we able now with our brand new version out of the oven to filter out false positive liquidity. No any other software out there. Again, there's no other heat maps out there is capable to filter out false liquidity on the heat maps market makers, except it can only be done on the best order flow new heat map, period. And this is significant. When you're trading, you don't want to see the false positive signals or some markers or liquidity on your heat map that you can take at the face value, at the belief value, what is on the charts. You want to filter out false positive signals, isn't it? The DeepDOM doesn't have that luxury. Okay, let me go to the other points of the DeepDOM. I already mentioned about the dynamic versus true heat map, volume, and misleading liquidity levels. When you squeeze it, some non-important become as important, misleading. In major one, this, what you're seeing right in front of you, heat map from the DeepDOM, is not integrated with the footprint. Why is that important? When you trading, you want to see the other order flow indicators. And now with the DeepDOM, you have two monitors, one simply dedicated fully for the DeepDOM heat map, and another dedicated to your other trading charts. The problem is that the way that DeepDOM and the Bookmap and ATAS build it, they are not congruent with the footprint. So you have a time frame or ranges on your chart that you use to make analysis, and now you need to take information from the DeepDOM and match it in your head, because the DeepDOM heat map is the milliseconds software, and it's only limited amount, by the way, can squeeze into the one chart. But you have, let's say, 5 minutes time frame chart for the footprint, or big trades indicators, or whatever the other indicators you have, and you need to like mentally build a bridge, recalculate, recalibrate. Oh, the price line over there on the DeepDOM now matching with what's going on the footprint, the charts that I'm using for analysis. And now these two in pieces of information I need to match, and it's easy to mismatch. And it's always a mental job that gives you usage of that CPU between your two ears, usage of your brain. You need to think about that and always match. On a Bookmap, on an ATAS, and on a DeepDOM heat maps, you always have to match in your brain, and okay, match it. Okay, this is the price level, this is the heat maps levels, and now this is the footprint. That's where I am. And now when you're looking for the cofactors, when you split second look at the other charts, not the DeepDOM charts, not the heat map chart, that chart is already moving, and you're already losing with the milliseconds or seconds. While you're analyzing the actual chart that you're making for analysis with your footprint, this chart is already moved, and you're just like thinking about what situation on your charts that you analyze or use for analysis, and it's like this chart is already like changed the position. Liquidity already changed that position, unless you're trading on a large time frames. But for scalpers, this is really nonsense. This is moving, and this is like you need the time to catch up, and to mentally bridge, connect the situation, the events on the heat map and the chart that you're making for analysis and trading. That's really like, you may not have enough time, especially if you are scalping. 30 seconds, 1 minute time frame. So you need to connect in your brain. This is the major inconvenience. This chart, that is the chart from the best order flow. Now over here, you can see the heat map, the true heat map, fully integrated, naturally integrated with all other indicators that you use for trading. Whatever indicators you needed, your favorite indicators, they're all integrated with the heat map. This is only on the best order flow heat map. No any other application or software have integrated naturally, so you don't have to bring two pieces of information from the heat map to your footprint charts. The heat map is right here, and you can adjust it to the view that you want it to on the fly as well. So there's some sliders you can use. You can bring more or less, so you can manage it on the fly as well. So those sliders is our brand new heat map that help you visually tune it. But the point is here, this heat map is naturally integrated. That's the beauty of that. When you see that on a footprint there is a exhaustion, or there is absorption, or there's like initiative is really taking by the other side, you can see it clearly on the footprint. And you don't need time. You don't need mental bridge. You don't need event to event matching from the heat map to the footprint, because it's on the same chart. That saves you time. That saves you mental energy. That saves you analysis. That gives you more accuracy and precision. No any other heat map is integrated that well and that fast, by the way. This is the fastest heat map ever. Out of every heat map on any platform, the best order flow is the fastest performing heat map on the bestorderflow.com. So the point over here, I save myself a lot of energy, real estate for monitor spaces. I need only one monitor to trade naturally, because the footprint is naturally integrated with the heat map. Isn't that fantastic? That gives you time. When you need to enter, when you need to make your decision, you can make a decision on the snap. But when you have the DeepDOM or Bookmap or ATAS heat maps, you always need extra time. You always need extra energy. You spending your resources for something that delay your decision and quality of your trading. So that's why it is becoming very important. Okay, so now integration is the key, because the DeepDOM and other software, they follow the example of the Bookmap and try to beat Bookmap and say we are better. They're falling in the trap of building inconsistent software in the mind of the trader for analysis, real-time analysis, because it's not integrated with other major order flow indicators. So if you fall in love with this software like a DeepDOM, but you will never experience what you're missing. You never experience many options that you can actually, with software like Best Order Flow Heatmap, you can fine tune and refine so well, like DeepDOM and Deepcharts and the Bookmap and ATAS or any other heat map not even lets you. You see the volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can filter out 5 volume level. That's why you can hide the market maker if you wanted to from your charts, not to give you false positive heat map price levels. This is why. So we also have a few other sliders that you can change it and you can instantly adjust it. No longer you needed to. But you see the 5 price levels you can highlight with the different colors. I mean, there's many different options that, and they apply it on the fly as well. Or you can use the template that can be a custom and usual like on a Bookmap if you wanted to. Standard one, welcome. But there's a many other filters that I'm not going to even mention right now that simply beat any other heat map software with the way that you can tune. Now, as you can see that the price went down on the DeepDOM, and now if price can go even lower, I'm gonna lose my visual on a DeepDOM price, okay? Heat map, because it's gonna go down. But this heat map always position the heat map in the middle of the screen naturally, so it's never get out of your sight, out of your analysis, so you can make analysis on the best order flow absolutely fast. By the way, you can see that right here There is a FPS, or simply the true indicator for the speed of refresh, how often this refreshed and processed. You can see that there's a no log on the best order flow heat maps. Practically, I want to do another experiment to open the 10 DeepDOM charts and open the 10 best order flow heat maps, and you can see that even if you open 10 heat maps on the NinjaTrader on the best order flow heat maps, it's always never lag. It's the only heat map that never lag, never freeze. But I want to see, probably Bookmap will not survive 3 instruments during the, or maybe even 2 instruments on a high volatility New York Open. But the best order flow heat map will always fast enough that not ever produce you lagging or freezing. This is absolutely marvel of the speed. And there is no any other heat map inside of the NinjaTrader ecosystem or outside of the Ninja trading platform able to achieve that fast blazing speed and performance. Because why is that important? Because we're not using only heat map. We usually use the footprint and the other volume or order flow indicators, plenty of them. Some people use even 510, and there's an MBO running right here. So when you use the other indicators, you need a breathing room for your CPU to able to accept the data, calculate the data, and show it to you. So that's why, for example, ATAS is nice looking, but it is the overwhelming your CPU. It's just like killing. And if you streaming and at the same time you're using the heat map on the ATAS, it's gonna give you a hard time. A task will consume so much energy that there's a users that I know who are using the ATAS heat map. They prefer to close the heat map on ATAS because they need resources on streaming. What if you're trading live? Imagine you can't, you're not able to, you are limited to do a live streaming on ATAS without the heat map, because you want to save resources. So that's a limitation on the ATAS heat map, really giving you a hard time on the CPU. It's just like killing you resources on the CPU. I don't know about that on a DeepDOM. Maybe DeepDOM uses much less resources, but look at the price right now. Where the price level? At the very bottom of this chart, and now it's gonna go and sink and get out of my visual side on a DeepDOM, and boom, now I can't even make analysis. While on a best order flow, it's always keep you in a center position because it's a special feature of the heat map we released. So that is the slight difference between the two heat maps. And slight difference over here, 1, 2, 3. I counted about like a 10 major insufficiencies in the DeepDOM software: inconvenience, insufficiency, malfunctioning, or not releasing those functions, that buttons when you click to apply it doesn't do anything. Over about the 10 functionalities that I really wanted to improve on a DeepDOM, but I unfortunately don't have a time to wait another 5 or 10 years when the DeepDOM engineers will fix those issues and finally release the release version, because it's still after even 2 years in development and never ending development. Sorry guys for that. While the people like Fabio or Andrea, they can talk and promote really well, but unfortunately, they promoting instead of the DeepDOM. Some people send me emails or on my streams, they saying it's truly a deep crap. But that's what people start to refer to a DeepDOM, that their heat map is something that is not really as presented, not really as expected. They have a lack of functionalities, and they have a lack of the ability to adjust and manage and filter liquidity on a DeepDOM. Unfortunately, that is the situation. And now there's many new people who were experiencing with the DeepDOM coming to the best order flow heat map and expressing their experience, hoping that with the best order flow, they will finally find a functional, final version and new release of this absolutely marvelously fast heat map that you can tune the way you want it to, that is integrated with the footprint and all other indicators that they're using to make analysis or real lifetime trading, and at the same time stream it freely. With the best order flow, you can stream 20 heat maps at that time. The best order flow heat map, you are not limited to amount of the heat maps. I will tell you one single secret about the best order flow heat map indicator. It's running faster than many footprints. Again, even the heat map is the most sophisticated, most demanding software, demanding and the resources. This version of the heat map on the best order flow perform even faster than footprints. If you want to use the footprint, I highly recommend you to use the footprint from the best order flow because it's also optimized for the speed and congruent with this heat map. But this heat map run even faster than any footprint. That's how fast it runs. It's absolutely new edge, new invention. The best order flow heat map, it is setting the new standards for the heat map in the whole trading community for every platform. This is something that I can be proud about, and I want you at least try the best order flow new heat map, at least maybe for a week or maybe couple weeks in your life. So you will really know what you're missing by using any other heat maps out there.